What's up, all you mentees? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at some collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, stay tuned. And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these particular trade paperbacks. These are all due out in the direct market on May 12th, and then a couple of weeks later in the book market. Now, you all know I cover the omnibus editions and hardcover editions here, as well as the masterwork editions, but I also love showing off the trade paperbacks, because this is some of my favorite format to read in collected editions. Looking at you, Epic Collections. And I am going to do a comparison to the original printing of the Final Threat to see if it still has that same printer error. Now, we have some Epic Collections, we have a complete collection, and then we have a trade and a Marvelverse. So we have a variety of things to look at. So let's go ahead and get started with Loki. So we are looking at the Marvelverse Loki book. This book retails for $9.99, and we'll look at the spines here in a second. And it is a smaller scale book, all the Marvelverse books are. So in comparison to a trade paperback, this is the dimensions of a trade paperback, this is what they look like. To kind of give you a better idea of how much smaller it is. Usually geared towards kids or beginners of the Marvel Universe. So the purpose of these is to kind of catch people up on a character, whether it's because there's a TV show or a movie coming out featuring the character. That's what they've been doing for a while. And it's a pretty unique collection, honestly. So this collects Avengers 300, material from Avengers 300 and material from Silver Surfer number 4, Amazing Spider-Man 503 to 504, and then Journey into Mystery 626. You have wonderful Walter Simonson artwork here. It's written by Ralph Macchio. And the main story I wanted to talk about here, though, is the story from Amazing Spider-Man. I thought that's a pretty unique story. So it's just different years and different stories and different characters that have dealt with Loki. Now, you're not going to see Loki look like that. I think this is from the Agent of Asgard series. If I'm not mistaken, that's the way he looks there. You're mainly going to get old school Loki that looks like this, fighting Silver Surfer. And then later on in the Amazing Spider-Man pages, back here, you're going to get this Loki. Now, I remember this quite fondly because I thought this was a pretty interesting story. It's issues 503 and 504 of the JMS run on Amazing Spider-Man, and it's where you have this character named Morwen, who looks like she comes from Asgard, and she is just infatuated with Spider-Man, and he keeps refusing her. So Loki, for some reason, wants to help her, which is unlike Loki, and there is a specific reason why. Now, towards the end of this, of course, Spider-Man does end up helping Loki, and Loki owes him a favor. And I remember years waiting for that favor to be paid off. There's some funny scenes in here where they're eating hot dogs. But yeah, I always thought that was interesting that Loki's like, okay, you did me a solid, I owe you a favor. And that favor's not paid off until Dan Slott's run, about issue 700. Almost 200 plus issues later. So this is where the story originally comes from. And then in the back we have, right here during Kieran Gillen's wonderful run when it was Kid Loki. So it's a different year and a different look for our favorite God of Mischief. And let's see if there's anything extra. I don't think they usually don't have anything extras in the back. This is just basically to try to get somebody interested in the character of Loki throughout the many decades that it has been around. Don't know if this is a volume 1, but I find it interesting that his first appearance is not in here from the pages of Thor. We jump right into the material from Avengers 300. Now, the book has 120 pages, and like I said, retails for $9.99. All right. Fantastic Four by Dan Slott. Now, this is the way I've been reading them. I know there's an oversized hardcover collection that's out. Hopefully, we'll get a second one. Get this beautiful cover here by Mark Brooks. But I've been reading them in this format, in trade paperback format. And I finally got to read the big controversial issue that a lot of people have had problems with on, well, I guess it's the internet. Most people have problems on the internet. But yeah, there's something that changes here for one of the characters. his origin is rather retconned, and some people were upset with that. But we're not going to go into detail because this is not a spoiler review of this particular book. It's just an overview of it. I will say that I hope that there's something else bigger at play, that they go back to that idea that it was initially stated for that particular character. But here we are. We have wonderful artwork here by R.B. Silva, who of course did the House and Powers of X, and also did some issues of Empire. So you have beautiful artwork. All of this written by Dan Slott. This book retails for $17.99, has 160 pages. Just showcasing some more of the artwork back here. All of this written, like I said, by Dan Slott. And this collects issues 25 through 29 of the Fantastic Four. Now that is the Fantastic Four from the 2018 series, when it was revamped or relaunched. As I was flipping through here, you probably noticed that this also features the return of the Griever, who's a character that was introduced in the very first issue of the new 2018 series of Fantastic Four. And just, this is some beautiful artwork. I really enjoy the colors in this too. Now, let's look in the back here for some extras. There's a special surprise as to who's in that Fantastic Four / Iron Man armor. So one thing you may have noticed is towards the beginning, they did put one of the variants on the opposite page of the standard cover. And they do that throughout the book. So not all the covers are in the back, but some of the variant covers are. Such as this one here by Scotty Young, which is a take of the classic Fantastic Four #1. This is the Letters page strip by Will Robson. And again, more of the variant covers. That one is freaking awesome by Art Germ. And then an advertisement. Now, Empire, by the way, for those waiting for the omnibus, that has been delayed until August. I know I keep getting asked about that, when I'm going to do an overview of it. Well, keeps getting delayed. Originally, it was solicited for May, but now it's coming out in August. For those collecting Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman in Complete Collection, it is finally here, Volume 3. I kept being asked about this one because people were worried that it got canceled. Pandemic really caused a lot of issues with delays, but it was just delayed. But it is finally here, coming out this week, continuing Jonathan Hickman's wonderful run on Fantastic Four. Here are all the credits. Your main artists are Greg Tocchini, Barry Kitson, Steve Epting, of course, and then you have other artists like Lionel Francis Yu coming in, and who else? Oh, Nick Dragotta does come in for 15 and 16 of FF. So there's Greg Tocchini's artwork, who's currently working on Low, I think. Oh, and Low is getting another reprint. Man, I'm just full of information today. Yeah, the Low Library Edition, or the deluxe hardcover, is getting a reprint just in time for Volume 2. But this continues Jonathan Hickman's FF and Fantastic Four run. So this collects FF, which is the Future Foundation, issues 6 through 16, and then Fantastic Four, issues 600 to 604. Meaning that we still have one more of these to complete the complete collection run. Because Fantastic Four went, Jonathan Hickman wrote it all the way to 623, and then, no, 611, that was it. It was, FF lasted until the 23rd issue. So there's a lot of payoff in this, and this is one storyline that I quote a lot. This is a storyline that I love how it all wraps up, and it's an epic storyline. It's got intergalactic battles. It's the return of a bunch of characters. It's the payoff from the very first issue that he was hinting at, because if you know much about Hickman, he plays the long game. And it's the return of a character that you thought was, he's dead. Oh, no, he's just, part bug. But, hey, whatever. But this is, oh, man, I'm not going to lie. Manly eye sweat in a particular panel in this. This is a wonderful storyline if you've not read it. And I'm very envious for the people that are reading it for the first time. I'm just flipping through the different art styles that you're going to be finding in here. Wait, why is Dr. Doom wearing white? Why does he look like one of the Fantastic Four? Oh man, you're in for a treat. That's all I can say. But here we have Steve Epting's artwork, the main artist on the Fantastic Four. Ben with his manly eye sweat. I feel the same way, man. Especially that line. Then forever, Oh, gets me every time. It's a pretty big book. We're looking at 480 pages, and the book retails for $39.99. One thing you may have noticed, where's all the covers? Well, much like everything else that Jonathan Hickman has written, or he has in collected edition, all the covers are saved for the back. So they always have a cover gallery back here. All the variant covers, all the standard edition covers, because Hickman just wants you to read the book in one long experience. Doesn't want you to stop and get spoiled by the cover. So that's why they keep all the covers in the back. And they are all... There's some funny variant covers back here. You know what? I'll leave you to find out what they are. So really the only time you know you're reading a different book is when they actually break it down by the volume. So like this is Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four Volume 5, and then Jonathan Hickman's Future Foundation Volume 2. And then you just jump right into the artwork, properly called Forever. That's right. All right, you wonderful spine watchers. Here's what all the spines look like together. Pause the video, whatever you have to do. Don't forget to hit like. All right, let's keep going. Morbius Epic Collection Volume 2. So this collects the years 1975 to 1981. The end of a living vampire. You have stories in here from Doug Minch. You have stories in here from Kraft, David Anthony Kraft, Bill Mantlo, and you have wonderful illustrations, Sonny Trinidad, Gray Morrow, and Sal Buscema, Frank Robbins, Don Heck, just to name a few of the creators that blessed this book with their wonderful talents. So it is the continuing saga of Dr. Michael Morbius, and of course he's the doctor that was trying to do a home remedy of curing his rare blood disease, and accidentally turned himself into a vampire. See? This is what happened. This is what I tried telling my mom, man, when she was trying to give me some, like, natural herbs from Peru when I had asthma growing up. And I was like, I'm going to turn into a monster, Mom. Dr. Michael Morbius, for example. Now, he first started out, of course, as a villain, but then eventually he became a anti-villain. And these collections are pretty interesting because this goes through the chronological appearances of Dr. Michael Morbius, or Morbius, the living vampire. So you see him through different titles. He never really had a book. I guess you could say that the Fear book did become him because he was the title character, but it was still Adventure in the Fear. Now, it wasn't until the 90s that you actually had a Morbius comic book, and there is no talk of collecting those. I hope maybe after the movie comes out, Jared Leto in that movie. I hope that after that movie comes out, Marvel will go back and think about collecting some of that 90s stuff, because there's a lot of freaking awesome things during those years. The Midnight Suns years, if you will. But what you'll see in here are his appearances throughout the Marvel Universe, and of course, there's also the Black and White magazine appearances. There's articles in here, too, that you'll find. Some beautiful... This is my favorite stuff. This is the same thing that the Omnibus had. So this is... Volumes 1 and 2 of the Epic Collection are practically the Omnibus put together. So this collects Fear 27 through 31, Marvel Premiere number 28, Marvel 2-in-1 number 15, Spectacular Spider-Man 6 through 8, and 38, Savage She-Hulk 9 through 12, and then material from Vampire Tales 9 through 11, the first annual, and then Marvel Previews number 8. So this is really where he wraps up the storyline, and it ends kind of anticlimactic, I think. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that without giving any spoilers away. Look at that beautiful piece of Man-Thing. And speaking of Man-Thing, yeah, I was going to say, all these characters show up here for an awesome team-up against, what is his name, the Starseed? Yeah, this guy right here, riding on a golden horse. Well, he himself is golden. So he's able to take away their curse, right? Like all these characters like Ghost Rider, Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night, and of course Morbius, with the promise of becoming their human versions. So you have Morbius becoming Dr. Michael Morbius again, Ghost Rider becoming Johnny Blaze, Jack Russell, of course, being the Werewolf by Night, and then Ted Sallis was the Man-Thing. So all these people that have been tortured and living this cursed life of becoming these horrible creatures have a chance of becoming human again, but find out how that story ends. Oh, I really like this one with the living laser, and then there's the different dimension, but don't worry, Morbius ends up coming back. But let's talk about this sort of ending Because after this fight with Spider-Man, through lightning, he kind of becomes normal looking again, but he's still craving blood. So he is now being tried for all his crimes. And of course, we have She-Hulk here, or Jennifer Walters, representing the character of Morbius. It's a very weird send-off for the characters, what I was getting at. For a character that started off, like I said, as a villain, like a Spider-Man villain, then became his own anti-hero. Kind of got sent off, and we didn't see Morbius for a while. I think the next time we saw him was in an issue of Doctor Strange, maybe. But here is what the artwork looks like. This is all written by Kraft. And let's look in the back here for some extras. So we had a couple of house ads towards the beginning. The book has 400 pages and retails for $39.99. Here's some original art page. This is, I think, a Sonny Trinidad. Phenomenal artist. The covers here to these Morbius Revisited. So when they launched his 90s line, he was a pretty popular character. So people wanted to start reading the classic Morbius stories. So the classic Morbius comics were reprinted with a brand new cover. And here's what the covers look like. And then the Kyle Holtz cover to the omnibus there. All right. Avengers, the Final Threat. This is volume 9 of the Avengers Epic line, and this is also the new printing. This is one of the very first Epic collections that went out of print, and then is back in print. So I always like to say that, just to kind of let people know that if you're interested in these new printings, you know, don't wait around too long. Usually these go fast. Because they don't print that many of the new printings of the Epic collections. But here we have the Avengers Volume 9, The Final Threat. And this reminds me a lot of my childhood, because I used to get, I think I've talked about this before, at the Shelbyville Flea Market here in Kentucky. There was a guy that used to set up, and his name was Dr. Comics. That guy had a PhD in comics. I don't think he did. I think that was just his name. But anyway, he always had like a quarter bin or a 10-cent bin, and he never cut me a deal. You know how I like to haggle? I think I've told that story before. That guy never haggled with me. He was like, "Nah, man, you're gonna pay, that's 25 cents. Come on, dude. I gotta feed my family." But the flea market was only open 2 days, only on Saturday and Sunday. So I have no idea how that man was feeding his family on quarter boxes or dollar boxes. But anyway, that's beside the story. These particular issues in here remind me of going there and then reading them when I would get home. So you have writing in here from Jerry Conway. You have the classic issue 150 in here, this one that the cover is based on, the front cover of this. So you have the wonderful talents of Steve Englehart. You have Jim Starlin, George Perez. You have John Byrne. And this return of a lot of characters. Doctor Doom, you have the return of Ultron, and then Ultron comes in and he's like, "Oh man, I want my own girl." So you have the introduction of Jocasta. You have the return of a popular Avenger. Well, I like to think he's popular. You have the return of Wonder Man in here, and Wonder Man was believed to be dead for a long time. So how all this plays out, you can find out for yourself. The main thing I want to point out in this particular edition is the pages that were misprinted in the very first printing, and I'll do a comparison here in a little bit, but what I wanted to do is showcase this wonderful artwork and my story with Dr. Comics. Alright, so anyway, I couldn't afford every issue, and then there were of course big gaps, because some of these books were worth money, but I remember there was a particular character that shows up here. Yeah, this guy right here. So this is the introduction of this character. I know this now, but as a kid I was so confused. So this is Graviton. Graviton first appears through these pages of Avengers. And then later on, so I didn't get any of these, you have the return of this guy right here, Count Nefaria, and these are the John Byrne issues. So, to a kid, to me at least, maybe as a dumb kid, I thought Count Nefaria and Graviton were like the same guy. This guy and this guy. They're not at all. Like, they're different characters. Count Nefaria is the guy in Uncanny X-Men 95. But anyway, yeah, they're totally different characters. Graviton is a different character than Count Nefaria. And of course, to a kid like me, I thought, oh man, he must have changed his name, because they obviously look the same. It's the same guy. Okay, so I guess at one point, Count Nefaria was Graviton. Thank God for the handbook guide to the Marvel Universe. That's all I'm going to say. So yes, you have wonderful artwork in here by John Byrne, George Perez, return of a bunch of villains, introduction of some new villains, and you have a whole new lineup. That's the one thing I didn't talk about. So of issue 150 and 151, we're introduced to a new lineup of Avengers, because Avengers are always changing their lineup. They never stay the same. But what we're looking at here is the new lineup of Captain America, Yellow Jacket, Moondragon, Vision, Wasp, Iron Man, Beast from the X-Men, Thor, and Hellcat. So pretty, they've always taken a chance in Avengers. I always admire them for that with the whole Captain America, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Quicksilver lineup ever since those days. Let's look at the extras, and then we'll talk about the differences. I forgot there's even the classic fight here with Thanos. As a matter of fact, that's what the final thread is. It's from that giant size issue. What is that? Giant size issue number 7, I think? Yeah, or annual number 7. Oh, I didn't talk about what this collects. Okay, well, before we look at the extras, this collects Avengers 150 to 166, Annuals 6 and 7, Supervillain Team Up number 9, and then Marvel 2-in-1 Annual number 2. It's a lot of Jim Starlin in here, a lot of wonderful talents, great years of Avengers. Now let's look at the extras. So we have a house ad. We have an original cover here by George Perez. Beautiful. Some original artwork by Big John, and in the back, I can't imagine owning something like this, and then in the back finding sketches by John Buscema. Lucky. And then original artwork here by John Buscema and Joe Sinnott, who was doing the inks. Now, the big misprint in the first printing is with this issue right here, issue number 157. Now, this is the original printing, and this is the new printing. This one's printed at the Donley printer, and then this one here is at the Salisco printer. So, everything's fine in these couple pages. Not bad. Same thing, other than maybe the white is really white in the new printing, whereas this one, a little duller. Colors are a little duller. But here we go. This is where we start messing up because the pages are not in proper order. So in the original printing, up here, we go from this scene to this scene, which is not right. Because even when you're reading this, you're like, wait a minute, I feel like this is the page I'm supposed to reading, and this doesn't take place until later. And that's exactly right, because this is the proper order of the pages. And it's only a couple of pages. That's it. It's I know it's not a big deal to some people, but for people that wanted to know, it is. It is fixed down here. Issue 157 is. And like I said, just a couple pages that are out of order. And then we get back to normal. So, the book is fixed in the new printing. Now, for those people that are OCD like me, are you going to keep the original printing with the misprinted pages? Like I said, just a couple. Or are you going to get the new printing for the corrected pages? So, everything is fine up until you get to page 190. And then things are switched around. So, let me know in the comments down below if you are getting it again, just to get those fixed pages, or if this is your first time getting it. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor. And that was the content and page count of each of these trades. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up. If you're a fan of the Epic Collections, if you're getting the Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman in complete collections, what you think of Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run, what you think about the controversial thing he did in a particular issue in this collection, and then if you're getting anybody the Marvelverse books. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We are on Spreadshop, where you can get our logo on stickers and t-shirts and hats, whatever it is that you're looking for, as well as some of our brands that we've created on the channel. And we're also on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. But more importantly, all of you stay healthy, stay safe, and much love.